Hi computer scientists, Mr. Stafford here, and today I'm going to be showing you Unit 3, Lesson 9, Solving Problems with Arrays. The first level asks us to translate the pseudocode that we wrote to Java to swap the elements in the visuals array. So what we're supposed to do here is swap the consecutive elements in the array that we have. So what we've got currently is an array of shapes that goes circle, square, triangle, circle, square, triangle, circle, square. And so we want to swap those elements. So if we flow down to line 38, right underneath to do, and I'll zoom in so we can see, write your algorithm to swap pairs of shapes in the visuals array. So what I want to start with is a for loop and say int I equals 0. We're starting at the first index 0, and I is going to be less than the array of shapes, which is called visuals. So I'm going to copy that name, is less than visuals.length, but we need to do -1 so we don't get an index out of bounds exception. And since we are swapping consecutive pairs, I want to skip every other index. So I'm going to say I plus equals 2. Okay? And from here, so we don't lose any data, I need to create a temp variable. So I'm going to say shape temp and make sure that I'm using the correct object, which it is an array of shapes. So I'm going to say shape temp is going to be equal to what's in shape, or sorry, what's in visuals at index I. And then what I want to do is I'm going to say visuals at index I is now going to be equal to visuals at index I plus 1. And this is where we would get an error at the end of the iteration. If I didn't do -1, length -1 in my conditional check, this would cause that index out of bounds exception once we get to the end of the array. And then what I need to do is visuals at index I plus 1 is going to be set equal to temp. And one little trick that I like to do is take a screenshot of the original so I can reference that, and I'll bring this off to the side, maybe, and I'm going to stop my program and run my program, and hopefully the array will then be swapped. And it is. So comparing the original, which had, let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger. Well, we can put it on top. A circle and then a square. Now I've got a square and then a circle. And we can see that the rest of the other elements have been swapped as well. Okay, so we'll take finish there. On to the next level, it says, to develop the next scene, add the following to your show ocean method in character story. So in character story, go to show ocean. And says, choose an ocean PNG image from the manage assets below. So click on manage assets, find an ocean scene that you want to use, and mine is just going to be Ocean 1. But look through some of those. I'm going to copy the name. And it asks us to display the image you choose as the background of the stage. Okay, so we've done backgrounds a number of times. And it's mystage.drawImage. So mystage. You know what I'm going to do is just copy this line of code. So I'm going to copy that display the image of the ocean, and rename it to Ocean 01 PNG. All right. The next thing that I want to do is create an array of samples from a sound. So step number 2 says, use soundloader.read to create a double array called water sound from the water.wave file. And so to do that, what we need to do is kind of like look at the end of these instructions and say, we're going to create a double array called water sound. So that's the first thing I'm going to do is a double array, name it water sound is going to be equal to, and use the soundloader.read file method. So I'm going to copy that, soundloader.read. And what we are reading in is this water.wave file. And the read method returns, if you look at the documentation, it's going to return a double array. And so we can store that double array in our double array variable water sound. Okay? And then it says on step number 3, choose at least 5 fish.png images from the manage assets below and create a string array called fish that contains the name of the fish images that you choose. So this is going to be a string array, name it fish, and it's going to be equal to, and then we need at least 5 fish PNGs from the manage assets. Now I'm just going to pick fish01.png, and I'm going to pick 1 through 5. Okay, you might want to take a look. Find your favorite fish that you like. I'll change these names in just a second. One, two, three, 4, and I need a 5th one. Don't forget my semicolon and change these names to 2, 3, fish 4, and fish 5. Okay, very good. And then it asks us to play the water sound array using mystage.playSound. Okay, so I'm going to copy that. Play the array of samples. Mystage.playSound from the water sound array that we created from up above. Step number 5 asks us to display the image of our character. Okay. So the image of your character, we've done that a number of times, and I'm going to find a line where I have done that. It's mystage.drawImage. My character, okay, and then we need to test it, test our concert. So over in my concert, I need to do the myConcert.showOcean method, so I'm going to flow back to my concert. From the previous lesson, I still have show city that I'm going to comment out. So I'm going to show ocean. Go ahead and run this just to make sure that I don't have any errors, and if I do, I'll fix them. But you should hear some water sounds and have your character there, and that looks good. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and flow on to the next level. All right, next level it says, in soundeffects.java, translate your pseudocode to Java to write the find method. Okay, so we got to go to sound effects. And look at the find method. Okay, so this is from our notes, so go ahead and check the slide deck. But this says that it creates a new array creating the samples that are greater than 0 from the original array. Okay, so I've got a public static method. It returns a double array. Its name is find, and I'm feeding in a double array, and its name is samples. Okay, so I didn't have any errors. The way that this comes pre-written for me, it says double array new sound equals new double, and then it has a length of 1. but I'm probably going to find more than one sample that is greater than 0. So what I want to do is make sure that I've got enough of a length that this double array is long enough to hold all the samples that I need. Now, maybe samples is all greater than 0. So what I would like to do is do samples.length. And I'm going to create new sound, the double array new sound, the same length as samples. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a loop, and I'm going to say for, and I'm going to write an enhanced for loop. And it's going to be a double D from samples. So D is going to temporarily store each element in the array of samples, and I want to check if D is greater than 0. So we're checking to see if D is greater than 0, okay? And if it is, that means I want to store in new sound that element, okay? But to do that, what I'm going to need to do, since I've got a for loop here, is I'm going to need new sound at a specific index is going to be equal to that sample D. But I need to create an index variable. So sometimes, so what I'm going to need to do is create an int index is going to be equal to 0. Okay? And then in the if statement, I'm going to say index, okay, new sound at index, and I'm going to set it equal to D, and then I need to increment index so that I can move on and increment to the next index and fill it with the next sample that is greater than 0. Okay. So then what I've got is, system.out.println number of original samples, system.out.println number of samples greater than 0. Okay, so the original samples, to test this out, is I just need to print the length from the original array, because that's going to be the number of samples from that array. So I'm going to copy and paste that here, samples.length. And the next thing that I would like to print is how many samples are greater than 0. Well, I'm storing an index of all the samples that are greater than 0. I've created it outside of my for loop and outside of the if statement, for that matter. And so this is a local variable to this find method that I can still access right here. So I'm going to say index. Okay, and then I'm returning that double array. So when I test it, I can actually see the number of original samples and the number of samples greater than 0. Okay, so then it's having me flow back. Next in the instructions, it says in characterstory.java, add the following to the show ocean method. So flow down to the show ocean method again. Okay, and it says traverse the fish array and draw each fish image on the stage. Okay, so I'm going to flow down to where I have to do that. Loop through the array of fish to display each fish. But there's further instructions in these bullets below, and it wants me to initialize variables for the x and y coordinates before the loop, and then change them inside the loop so the fish display in different places. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do for. I'll show you what it looks like if I don't do that, and then when I do change that. So I'm going to say for int I equals 0, I is less than fish.length I++. Open this up, and I want to draw these images. Okay, so I'm going to steal the mystage.draw image for my character. And instead of character, I'm going to say fish at index I. And I don't want them sitting right on top of my character that is at 100, 100. So I'm actually going to put it, let's do it 150, 150, okay? And it says on the second bullet, pause for 0.5 seconds inside the loop so that the fish display one at a time. So that is going to be my stage.pause for 0.5 seconds. And it says pause for 1 second after the loop to display the fish. So after the loop, I want to do my stage.pause for 1 second. And it says create a new double array called new water sound. Okay. Create a new double array called new water sound that gets the result of the call to your soundeffects.find method on water sound. All right, so that's what we did from the first step on this level. And I need to do that underneath this comment. Apply the find method on the array of samples and play the samples again. Okay, so I need to make a double array, name it new water sound, is going to be equal to the result, what's being returned from the find method in sound effects, okay, on the water sound array. So I need to copy in the water sound array, which is that double array that we created from up above as the parameter. All right, now it's asking us to play the new water sound array. So I've already done a mystage.playSound from up above. So I'm going to borrow this code, copy it, paste it here. And instead of water sound, I want to hear what the new water sound array sounds like. It's asking me to pause for 2 seconds. So mystage.pause. 2, so it says pause for 2 seconds to let the sound play. And test our app again by calling the show ocean method. So let's run this and see what we need to fix or what we need to modify. And you should hear, it kind of sounds just like static to me towards the end of playing that new water sound. We can also check the console right here. We had this printout from our sound effects find method, okay, the find method that we wrote. If you remember, the samples.length, that gets printed right here. We had 210,000 samples. And what we were left with was 31,000 samples. So we cut down quite a bit on the number of samples. And those were the samples that were greater than 0. One thing that I need to fix in character story that the instructions asked me to do, but I didn't, was I needed to create variables for the X and the Y position of my fish outside of my loop that drew my fish. And if you can tell that all my fish are stacked on top of one another. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do int x is going to be equal to, let's set it x to be 20, int y also equals 20. And instead of it being 150 and 150, I'm going to say that this is my x, this is my y, and I'm going to increment x and y. So x plus equals, let's increment it by 50 and see where that puts us. X plus equals 50. So they should be going in a diagonal direction, starting up at the top left and moving to the bottom right. I'm going to stop, run it, and see what this does for me. And we have our fish. We can see him going in line. You can move things around if you want to make it look a little bit better, but that's it for lesson 9.